Okay, hello everybody. Today is Friday, February 10th. I'm again a day late on uploading this just because I had to do it a few times, make sure that I'm able to explain it and explain it well. Um, the last few recordings, I have me making just a small little error and then staring at the screen for a little bit to figure out what's going on. And I don't want to take up too much of your time. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go over some questions. We're going to go over how to find direct labor hours, and then we're going to do a little fun practice problem, special treat. So let's do this first. So a lot of the times in the homework, it's going to ask you to find out how many hours are in a predetermined overhead rate, or how many hours were incurred in the period. And sometimes it won't give it to you. So what you should do here is you're going to take your total direct labor cost of the job, or of the of the job, and then you're going to divide it by your wage, your DL, direct labor wage rate. Okay, so I have an example right here. If we were going to do this, if we had a direct labor cost of $1,000 and the wage rate was $20 per hour, all we would have to do to find out the answer for the number of hours we use is take the 10,000 or the 1,000 and divide it by the $20. Okay, and this is 50 hours. Okay, so 50 DL hours. And that's how I would find the number of hours used if it doesn't give it to me. Again, total divided by wage rate. Okay. I wanted to go over the predetermined overhead rate formula again. So we'll do it again. So the predetermined overhead rate, estimated total manufacturing overhead cost divided by estimated total amount of allocation base. Okay, so total, meaning the fixed plus the variable, divided by the total of whatever your allocation base is. So it'll say based on direct labor hours, based on machine hours, based on something. That'll tell you. This is important to memorize, but when I say it's important to memorize, a lot of the times it will be implied by the problem. So it'll say is manufacturing overhead is based on machine hours. So you can kind of understand that we want to find out the rate when the denominator is 1. So if it was based on machine hours, if we want to find out if we have 1 machine hour, how much of our overhead cost do we need to assign to that? So when it says based on, you know you're going to be dividing. Yeah, but if it helps you to memorize it, by all means. So let's go over some guiding questions, then we'll do the problem. So what's the difference between a plant-wide overhead rate and a department overhead rate? So great question. The plant-wide overhead rate is going to be our total overhead for the entire plant. Okay, total overhead for the entire plant, fixed plus variable, whatever, divided by the total activity level or allocation base of the entire plant. Okay, the departmental-wide overhead rate will have you calculate the overhead rate for every single department in our company. So what we would do is we would take our total manufacturing overhead cost for the department. So department DEP overhead total, and we would divide it by our department allocation. And it will sometimes they'll use the same for the same allocation base for the plant wide and the departmental wide. Sometimes it'll be different. So you just have to pay attention on what the overhead rate is based on for the department or for the plant wide overhead rate. Second guiding question: why do we apply a markup on jobs? What do we base the selling price or the price we charge the customer on? So the reason why we apply a markup on the jobs is because we always want to make sure that we're making money on every single job. So part of managerial accounting is understanding not only how much revenue you took in, but more specifically, it's understanding how much things cost you to do. So every time we do a job, it's going to cost us, the company, some amount of dollars. Okay, and accountants need to be able to track those costs and accurately tell you exactly how much of our money it took to generate that revenue. Okay, so when we do a markup, we would take the total manufacturing or product cost of the job, and we would multiply it usually by a percentage. Okay, so when we do that, we always want a number when using markups. We always want a number bigger than the we always want a number bigger than the cost of goods sold. Okay, so the reason why we want a number bigger than the cost of goods sold is because we want to sell things for more than it costs us to make. And so by applying a markup, you instantly know that your selling price is going to be whatever percentage greater than the price of what it costs to make that revenue happen. Yeah, and that's why we would base the selling price on it. For number 3, how do you find the number of labor hours if it's not given to you? Okay, so I showed you over here. We'll take our total labor cost divided by our direct labor wage rate, and we'll get the number of hours. Okay, fun with all that. Now let's do our practice problem. So I took this right out of the Google Sheets for class. Didn't get a chance to do it in class, but I'll take a moment and do this together. So this problem's good because it has 2 departments and 2 jobs. So it can get a little bit confusing, but we're going to go through it as slow as possible, and I'll show you everything that I'm doing. Again, it gets a little complicated, but we'll see. So we'll always read the problem first. We can assume the plant-wide manufacturing overhead rate is based on machine hours. That's great. And then plant-wide, both rates will be of machine hours. Okay, so we know everything's going to be based on machine hours. So what we can do is we already know the fixed because it's given. So for the plant-wide department, the total fixed manufacturing overhead is 420,500. Cool. Now to find our variable plant-wide overhead, we're going to take our total machine hours, right? Because that's our allocation base, or that's what drives the variable cost, and multiply by the sum of 120 plus 230. Actually, no, let's structure this a little bit better. So we are using our plant-wide variable rate, but that's just the total. So what we would do here is we want to take the 120 for molding, multiply by the 500 or the 5,000, and we'll make that up. We'll put that in parentheses. Okay, and then we're going to add the $2.30 times the 5,000. Okay, so, and we'll get 17,500. Okay, so again, what I did was, since these numbers weren't the same, you can't add them together because you would get you get a bigger number than you're supposed to. So we would just add up all the fixed expenses in our departments, and then add up all the variable expenses in our departments, and then sum them together. So that's what we'll do here. So we'll go 4,200. Oh, it already gives it to me. So 42,500 plus 17,500 is going to equal 60,000 estimated overhead. That's our total estimated overhead for the plant-wide allocation base. Right, so once we have the 60,000, we need to divide that number by the total number of machine hours in the plant-wide rate. So what we'll do here is we'll take total plant machine hours. We will reference the 10,000 because that was our total machine hours that we used. Okay. So 10, not dollars, hours. How do I get that 0? Oh, what happened? I'm just going to put 10,000. Don't be like me, but I don't want it to be in dollars. That is the total. See, this is a live session, so we gotta make do with what we got. Okay, that's 10,000 hours, not dollars. Don't confuse the two. It's not letting me change it. So now that we have the total plant-wide number of machine hours, we can just simply divide the two. So what we'll do here is plant-wide PMOH. Okay. And again, we'll take our total estimated overhead, which is the 60,000, and we will divide it by the 10,000 hours. And we will get 6. And of course, that's not going to show $6, but that is $6. Okay, I will highlight that, make sure that we're good on that. So that means that basically on average, for every hour we incur plant-wide, we assign $6 of overhead to it. And that's to assign the overhead to us. Now for molding, and by now doing the departmental-wide overhead rate, we're gonna get different rates for different departments because they have 2 separate costs to them. So for molding, we'll take the fixed cost of the molding, okay? And then I'm gonna take the fixed cost of the assembly right here. Cool. Now I can take the total variable cost of the molding. So I'll hit equals. I'll take the $1.20. I'll multiply by the 5,000 and I'll hit enter. 6,000. Great. Then I'll take the $2.30 times the 5,000 and hit enter. Okay. And all of these are in dollars. Okay. So we had 29,000 fixed for molding, 13,000 fixed for assembly, 30,500 fixed for assembly, and then the variable total cost for molding was 6,000, variable total cost for assembly 11,500. Okay. Now what we can do is we can add them all up together and we can get our total estimated overhead. So total estimated for molding, 35,000. Total estimated for assembly, 25,000. Cool. Now what we can do is we can take our total department machine hours, and we can reference these. So in the molding department, we had 5,000 machine hours. Okay. And again, that's dollars. It should be in, it's gonna make me mad. All right, $5,000, 5,000 hours. And then we're gonna do the same for over here. Okay, so both of these are 5,000 hours in the department in the total department number of machine hours. And so I'll do department predetermined overhead or manufacturing overhead there. Okay, now I will simply take this and divide the two. Cool, 7 and equals 25,000 divided by 5,000, $5. So I will make these dollars so it's easy to see. Okay. And I'll highlight this and then I will explain what those mean. So for this, we know that for every machine hour of molding, we pay, or we don't pay, but we incur $7 worth of manufacturing overhead. For the assembly, we incur $5. Okay, so plant-wide predetermined overhead rates will be less exact than the department-wide overhead rates because the plant-wide included all of the numbers divided by all of the plant machine hours. The departments did the individual number of overhead divided by the individual number of machine hours, and we got different answers. So it's more specific to use the department-wide predetermined overhead rate when your costs and hours are different. So there are situations where you can use the plant-wide predetermined overhead rate, but it just won't be as accurate. And again, we want to be as accurate as possible when we're finding out how much our products cost us to make. Okay, so now we'll go to the plant-wide. So we already know that plant-wide, it doesn't matter what we did. It doesn't matter about the direct materials and the direct labor because their direct costs, they're going to be the same. So whether we use plant-wide or departmental, it doesn't matter. So for job E, we'll reference the 14,000. Okay, and then we'll just go down one to the 22,000, right? Because I used the cell reference, so I'm able to do this. And we'll just double check, make sure everything's right. Cool, job E and job M, cool. And we'll do the same thing for the departmental-wide overhead rate first, because again, it's a direct cost, so it doesn't change with activity level, or it doesn't change with the amount of overhead that we apply. Okay, so now they're all the same. Cool. Now we can use our plant-wide overhead rate to apply the overhead. So what we're going to do here for job E, using the plant-wide overhead rate, we're going to hit equals, right? Then we're going to take the $6 of overhead times the amount of times the total amount of overhead, or the total amount of machine hours in job E. So we'll do 3,400 plus 2,000. And we'll close the parentheses and we'll hit equal. Okay. So what we did there is we added the two machine hours together, because in the plant-wide rate, we don't discriminate between the 3,400 and the 2,400. We just take all the machine hours and multiply by the rate. So all we got to do here to find the total cost of job E is sum those up. All right, and now let's do the same thing plant-wide for job M. We will take our $6 plant-wide, multiply it by the 3,000 hours plus the 1,600 hours for job M, and we get 27,600. Cool. Now we can hit equals, and again, we can sum and it'll reference it. And we'll get a total cost of our job. So these costs are what it took us to make those jobs happen. Okay. And we'll see why we need to track that in a minute, and why it needs to be accurate in just 1 second. So now I broke down the overhead into molding and overhead in assembly, because I want to make sure that I'm showing you the differences between the two. Okay, so for molding, we'll take our molding predetermined overhead rate via the department, multiply it by the amount of molding hours we incurred in job E. Okay, then we'll take the assembling, but equals, we'll multiply the assembling predetermined overhead rate times the number of machine hours in the assembly department. And then we'll do the same for job M. So we'll take the $7 for the molding department, multiply it by the molding hours in job M. And then we'll take the 7 again, or we'll take the 5 again, and we'll multiply it by the number of assembly machine hours in the assembly department. Cool. So these two together will be our total manufacturing overhead cost. So if I just wanted to find the total manufacturing overhead cost for each, actually, I won't do it that way, because that's the total cost for the department. Okay. To find the total, we don't want to find the total departmental cost. We want to find the total cost. So we'll do total cost. Cool. Now to find the total cost, we'll just add everything up like we did before. So we'll take our sum of everything. Cool. And then we will take our sum of everything. Okay, so I want you guys to notice how these two, right, the 70,900 and the 44,500 are different than the 69,500 and the 45,900. That's because we're not using all of our, we're not allocating it very specifically. This is just the general predetermined overhead rate based on the aggregate or the average. And then this is more specific to the job and the departments. All right, they use a markup of 20% to to establish selling prices. Okay, here's a little trick. So on the Excel, a few people are having trouble because the Excel says a markup of, I'll give you an example. It says markup of 25%. It's not the same as the Excel, but I just want to give an example here. So we'll make that a percentage. All right, if it's a markup of 25% and I take my costs of like $100 and I multiply them, I'm going to get $25. Okay, is this a selling price that I want to have? No, right? Because if I spent $100 on the job and I apply a 25% markup, I don't want to only charge the customer $25. I want to charge the customer the job plus the markup. So you can either add the $100 plus the $25 together, or what I like to do, and I know this is frowned upon, but I like to take so we'll start with the 0.25 and we'll make it a percentage. What I like to do is inside the cell, I will just take this. Actually, I'll leave it as a decimal. Okay, nope. Okay, I'm deleting everything. I will leave it as a decimal just because I want to show you what's this about. So we'll undo. Okay, now we will go 0.25. And again, that's giving me $0.25. I don't want that. Why is it not just selecting the dollars? Okay, we're trying over here. 0.25. All right, so now that's there. What I like to do is you can just hit plus and then 1. Obviously, it needs to be a function, right? But nope. Okay, my internet cut out for a second, but I think I'm still recording. Okay, let's get out of here. Oh my god. Oh my days. All right, we'll hit equals 0.25 plus 1. All right, and then we'll make it a percentage. Okay, no, make it a percentage. Okay, great. So now I took a long time to explain that, but what we have here is 25%, a 25% markup. So if we take our selling cost or our cost of goods sold, we take our cost of goods sold, okay, and we multiply them. So $100 cost of goods sold times the 25% markup, we'll get our selling price we need to the customer. Okay, so that's how we would do that. Again, you could take the cost of goods sold and then multiply by the percentage and then add that back into the cost of goods sold, or you can just express it as a percentage, but remember that it needs to be greater than 100 because we want to charge the customers more than what it cost us. Okay. Okay, so for the plant-wide rate, we're just going to take our total cost using our plant-wide rate. And we're going to reference. So we'll hit equals, and then we'll reference the 69,500. Okay. And then the 45,900. Okay. And then we will type in our overhead or our markup. So I like I said, I'll do 1.2. 1.2. And it's a 20% markup each. Okay. Then I will express that as a percentage just so it's a little bit more clear. And then all I got to do to find the market, to find the cost that we're charging the customer, we will put them and we will multiply them. And again, since I used references, I get to use the rabbit function. All right. So now what we can do is for the departmental wide overhead rate, we'll just take the total cost that we found for the department wide overhead rate, or the departmental overhead rate plus the cost of the job. And then we will multiply it by the same amount. So we'll do the 44,500. Okay, then we'll hit 1.2. 1.2. Okay, and then again, we'll express it as a percent. Cool. Now we can just multiply them. So multiply. Cool. Cool. Okay, selling price. All right, so the selling price is what we charge the customer. So I will paint bucket that. Okay, so and we can double check our work just by eyeballing it. The 83,400 is bigger than the 69,500, so we will make money on it. So the percentage markup is a good way to make sure that you're going to make money. However, if our total costs aren't correct, if you hired a bad managerial accountant, this number will be off, and so will your total cost be, and then the IRS will come after you, like Professor Griffin said. Okay, that's all I had for today. Sorry this is a day late, but I hope you learned something, and I hope this could help you on the Excel assignment. If you're watching this, I have office hours on Monday. Just remember to just remember that they're available on Blackboard. And then also, as always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next SI session. Have a good one.